Welcome to the Founderz Lounge, where business meets bullshit and everything in between. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Founderz Lounge. Today's guest, probably one of the most eccentric humans that I'm friends with. I love this guy to death, Mr. Duncan Butler. Duncan, how are you, man?
I'm good.
Welcome, man.
I'm excited to be here from the house.
I dig the American flag in the background.
Yeah, that was a gift given to me. That from who I got it, I'll leave that lay. But a very person that I would look up to. So when I got it, it's like most things I'm like weird. I sit on things, and then Rebecca, Steve, who my wife is from England, so
Nice.
it's kind of like give and take. Like, it's got to be Britain, it's got to be England, it's got to be. So she was the one on herself. I wish I could show it to you a little bit better because the frame is insane. Not one I would have gotten or probably paid for, because I've now realized where she gets our stuff from, and it's painful to. I do the pickups in our family, so pickup means you get crushed.
Yep. I hear you.
But she took it on herself and went and had it all done, matted and stuff like that. And the interesting thing about that was it sat literally, well, to my right. I'm in my like kind of living room.
Gotcha.
And her mom and dad were down, which is funny. They're going to be here. They're from England, and they've just done a round the world trip in their 70s. And so they're going to land here, I think, Sunday night. But her dad was sitting with me, and I said, it was literally just sitting behind this chair for a month. And I said, man, you got to help me, dude. Like, you got to help. It wasn't awful, but it was just something that I was like, man, we got all that space. It's the only place it'll fit in our house. My wife's the one that kind of picks where everything goes, and I'm cool with that. And then, but she had it done, which was awesome, but then it sat. Like, she was like, there you go.
She's got to hang it.
And so I finally got my father-in-law involved, Martin, and he was like, I was like, dude, I don't know how many pints it'll take or whatever, buddy, but I need you here with me. And finally he said, right there, let's put it right there. And she was like, oh, that'll be great. And I went, it works.
It looks great, man. It looks awesome.
It's been there. And then, so we have a little cabin up in North Carolina. And if you ever stay there and you go upstairs, super tiny, like cool place, but tiny, you think you have gone to England, when you walk in the bedroom. So she found a World War I flag over there when we were visiting her parents, which was pretty killer. And so we have that kind of done for her. So
if you don't mind me asking, whereabouts in North Carolina are you?
We are in Western Carolina. Not a big deal. The part I love, which again, my wife found. I grew up going up to like Highlands, North Carolina, right? And like
me too.
Cashiers and like the two big, the big names.
Sapphire Valley, that whole area.
Yeah. Yep. So we're west of that. So we're Cullowhee.
Nice. I know where you're at.
And so so we're in the mountain side of it, not the town side of it, I guess. So we're right by Lake Glenville. We're about 2 miles from Lake Glenville. That's my 1,000% getaway.
That's my happy place too, Duncan. Yeah. We a lot of summers up there.
Yeah. Well, it's I did that. So my grandfather, who's of course passed, still has a place up in Highlands, but he had it before,
it blew
all
up.
The McDonald's money got in there and all that kind of stuff.
A lot of
money.
And
so luckily I have a lot of uncles, but my one uncle, because I got a big family, so everyone's moved around. So he, I'm from Orlando, so he's from Maitland, and so he got it, and he literally in the last 2 years just stripped it down, but kept all the old wood and everything and did stuff with it, and it just came out really great, really tiny, cool thing. But I mean, dude, if you pull in his driveway, if you don't see 4 bears in the front yard, I mean, you're not there,
right?
And so I was always like, there's a lot of bears, dude. We'll come back.
There's a lot up that way. Very cool.
I mean, everywhere. Yeah.
Right, Don, what are you getting into today?
Well, guys, for historical context, I met Duncan through Sornex exercise equipment, Burton, and his family, and got to know Butler a little bit and what he did. I'm going to let you explain it because you're the founder of the Butler Group. But
Yeah,
when you
it's
say
me.
what you say, yeah. But the Butler Group,
the whole board
guys,
here.
if you look this up online, I'm just going to let you explain what it is and what you do. It's so unique that's kind of what I wanted you to talk about is what is that? What do you do? It sounds kind of a cheesy saying, but like it's awesome. That's kind of why I want you to talk about it. But it's just so unique. I don't know anybody else doing what you do.
So the world I come from, and Don knows me. So Steve, just so you can understand, and I talk a lot, so cut me off, but I'll try to get it. I got it down pretty well. My background, my true background is, and then we can get in later what I wanted to be and all that stuff. But I am my 25 years of my career was in the power sports industry. Power sports being motorcycles, off-roading, boat, anything you can see, utility, like anything that dealt with that. So I literally started, and we'll go, I'll just say a little snippet, so maybe it'll drive curiosity. So I really went to college, got out, wanted to be in the FBI, ended up going into the kind of the Wall Street angle. And then we'll get back to that. So I jumped, just so you can understand, and I start in the power sports industry. I loved Harley Davidson. I was never allowed to ride motorcycles growing up. My dad was a doctor. He thought it was like the dumbest thing you could ever do. But we were insane water skiers. We didn't have the fancy boat. We had the outboard motor that you could just eat your face on.
Awesome.
But my dad thought we read the owner's manual. He tested us. He said, we're good to go. We mowed the yard for gasoline. So in saying that, in being in the power sports industry, in the retail side, started at the bottom, worked my way up to be a general manager, left that in about 2007, cut my teeth, went into the power sports side. That's why I even say that, because I was with Harley forever. And literally then learned, right? You get in something, you think you're really good. You just jump in somebody else's house who kind of does the same thing. It looks the same, there's similar things, and you don't know shit, right? You don't know it. So I was lucky growing up. I had, a ton of brothers, 2 sisters, a hard charger of a dad, and my mom ran everything. Mm-hmm. So I just always was lucky in the sense that I had, when I thought I was hot shit, I wasn't. I was told immediately. When you did something well, you're like, keep it rolling, keep it going, and kind of like find your way. So when I would change things in my work life, that kind of always set with me, whether I knew it or not. It always like, hey man, like change your way. So in doing so, like in any industry, I think it is, you have, in our industry, I was blessed to have, like, from a training perspective, there's a group, by a man actually named Ed Lemko in the Harley world. And he was pro dealer against manufacturing. I mean, like anyone you read him, he can tell you, but he just knew, like, had a little politics to him. But in that, I had a really good outlet and really good owners as I was growing to like I get to watch all these other people kind of tell us how our industry worked, right? Mm. And then I met Sam Dantzler, and I met this gentleman named John. I can't believe John's last name right now, but he's a huge multi-dealer owner now. So he switched sides and went to the dealer side. So in saying that, 2011, moved to Atlanta. It was my first opportunity to kind of do an M&A, if I want to say that, like my first exit strategy with a group. Although I was part of, like, I was working for the owner, but it was like, so I was almost creating exit strategy because he was doing just such brutal things. And I still talk to him today. I could have a beer with him. I could never work with him. Mm-hmm. He knew it all. He still knows it all. He'll still tell me he knows it all. But I just let him know he didn't make it in our industry. Yeah. It doesn't matter how much money
those are fun guys to hang out with.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Like this is the guy that would walk into a bar in Atlanta and say, hey, what should a guy like me drink? Like a Wall Street guy. I said, you're in Marietta, bro. Like,
yeah.
You did great. You're in logistics. Yeah. Take that. Run with it, dude.
Schlitz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but in 2011, ended up doing that. And it was like one of those not to be corny, but it was like, hey, like, here's my path. What do I want to do? And with another person I worked with 4 years, and she's since moved on and doing great with Club Car and all that. So no negativity to that. Just was like a great opportunity. But we literally, and it's the old adage, but on a napkin at Barcelona right here in Atlanta. I mean, when they like opened, I remember sitting there and saying like, man, and I was single at the time. So I just had all the right moves to do kind of do what I wanted. Right. Yeah. I mean, to do something like this. And I said, hey, why don't we start consulting with dealers like Sam Dancer and all them? And they talk about it, but they've never done it. They don't understand the point of sale. They don't understand forecasting. They don't understand the back end. They don't understand, absorption rates and in parts departments where they're sitting on, $500,000, $250,000, depending how size the dealership is. That's just killing them every month, service department, how are you keeping the long-term customer, because it's really going to be through the service bay and different things like that, and how to get service people to be more salespeople, to have a smile on their face, know how to talk on the phone, different things like that. So that's how I was like, dude, I want to run every dealership like I ran sales floors. And I was always a very active manager. And when I say I started at the bottom, guys, I left wearing cufflink shirts at 26 in a high rise to literally washing bikes and a pair of Dickies. And I was like, can I get a t-shirt or something?
That's pretty cool. That's culture shock.
My mom was like, whoa, negative. Like, first of all, she's like, he's joined the Hells Angels and he's this and that. And Although Richard Farmer is like one of the most successful businessmen in Orlando. And I remember my, I don't kind of go back and forth, but then my dad, as usual, everyone's like, he's the hard nose. He's the only one that there's never a negative thing about it. There was like, is there hard work involved? Are you going to bust your ass? Are you going to do more than that? Like, what is your plan? If we're going to do this, just got off a call. Sorry.
No worries, man.
Sorry, I don't even know that song. But like, more apologies. Like, what is your plan? So that was always like a little stick of fire where I was like, oh, okay, I got hit. He's like, stop listening to the noise. Like, what are we doing? But like, have a plan. So I remember literally going to him with a 3-ring binder. And like, you never brought my dad something, not like he wasn't interested or anything like that. He was really interested, but he was not that touchy feely guy. And I remember giving him this notebook, driving down from Atlanta, still as an adult, still sweating, like, hey, and it was really my mom. My mom was like the finance brain. And she wasn't like blown, like she was still in her mind, like, what's happening? Oh, so anyway, so I started like washing bikes. That's what I meant. So I'm like ADHD. So
you're good, man. Again, you're in good company.
But that's literally where I started and worked my way up. But when I, in 2000, now go to 2011, I bring this to my dad and I'm sweating bullets and I'm like, hey, here you go. And I remember my dad still today sits in their kitchen at a table that I've seen for, I feel like 25, 30 years. And same seat. And like, that's where he does his reading. That's where he does, 84 years old. He does all his stuff. Awesome. And I remember handing it to him being like, and the next morning I woke up and literally I could tell like he had gone through an edges and dog ears and this and that. And he wasn't like the business. It really was my mom. And it was like, he was like, just proud that I did it. Right. Like I was still in school or I'd gone and accomplished something. Like bringing him that notebook was like, okay, like
it was the initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Butler Group literally started out, like in the worst time of the year, November. Harley Davidson closes down their, I call it plant still, but all manufacturing for Christmas for 2 weeks. It's Christmas. Everyone's just trying to sell t-shirts and this and that and get the new motors, whatever. And no owners want to talk to anybody on the outside, especially a vendor. And now I'm coming from the other side. But the Butler Group was a full 5 income stream, multi-talented group, was Amanda and myself, but that could come in and literally be boots on the ground. We weren't sending anybody in and really start from you want to call it, a consultation or whatever. Because I mean, I was lucky at the beginning if I even got that, to talk about their dealership. But I had to study it, websites, this and that. We would look at everything. She was really strong in operations, like super strong in operations. Like we could go to other states and say, hey, here's how you get your licensing. Here's how you get, like literally, I say that now because that's never what I got into it for, but we were doing shit like that. But it was basically to take where you're hemorrhaging, where your hiccups were, where your problem spaces were, but we were still saying, hey, where you're good, we want to talk about that too, because we want to stay there, right?
Yeah.
We want to get better. We don't want to go backwards because we're spending time on this. This is all should flow together, right? It's like discipline. It's like playing a sport. My dad always thought that would transfer into the classroom. Didn't always for me. Brothers and sisters, yeah, it was pretty easy. But that's where we started the Butler Group, and like no marketing, no anything, the tiniest, weakest soft budget you ever saw, which I would call like savings, back then, if you want to call it that. Amanda, you got to cover you. I got to cover me. So collectively, we work as hard as we can and use what we know in this industry. And our main thing was getting in the front door. And so I would work more on like, what does that look like? But that's what the Butler Group started as. My first customer is Motorworks Chicago, which is a thriving dealership up in Chicago now. Like they're literally they're in Pilsen. That's Johnny Chef, who's like just, we're like the same, dude. Like when we met each other, I was like, okay, like that's why he hired me. But we had actually worked together, and the way I met those kind of people was like we did 20 groups, so we do little, nationwide groups that would get together that weren't competitors because they were too far away. And then we would study each other's businesses and be like, oh man, you're great in finance, you're great in back end, you're great, blah, blah, blah. But, and that's where I met Johnny. And Triumph built one. Harley had been doing it forever, and Ed Lemko. And he and I both went to be the chairman of our first inaugural thing at Triumph Motorcycles. And I got it. And he was like, how does this guy get it? He's still wearing Harley shirts. Like, and it was. I think I'm the guy that always brought a resume. But anyway, when I stepped down from that to take on this, he got pushed up to that. And then that was my first job. And so, but what it is, it's just, not to say simply, but simply, we go in, look where the weak points are, and then work on that. But we also manage to our managers is what we try to do. Because you can go in and you can do all the cool stuff and people get pumped and holy shit, you did show me something different, or wow, you really did know that because you've done this before, or hey, you've got this, and you'd be like, man, we're really making headway. But the day you leave, it's just like running any company. This was our company. We were working for them. How do we stay with you? How do we stay with you? Well, now we have all these phones and we have all this different stuff. There's no reason to say, hey, and it wasn't like when I left, I went, oh, hey, buddy, by the way, I spoke to your general sales manager. They're kicking ass. Here's what we do. Let me send you a report. Oh, that's $150.
Right.
When we left you, back then it was like whatever we get. And when we left you, we were with you for good, right? Unless you brought us back in or there was a different part, that we were going to do. And so that's what I did consistently. It even got me hired back into dealerships, where I got hired just like solely just me. One group hired me for 6 months, and I went in there and I was like, well, hey, this is what my day rate is, and this and da 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 da, and they're like, this is what our general sales manager made last year. We'll give you that for 6 months.
Nice.
And I was like, sign me up.
Yeah.
And which was one, that's great, right? But the best thing about it is I finally got to really show, like, so I said, hey man, do y'all give work shirts out? Right? Yeah, we give. I'm just asking because I'm trying to see how when someone comes in, how are they onboarded? How are they taken care of? How are they brought in? Although it's motorcycles and it's like macho and stuff, it's not. It's a business. Like, how do we do it? How do you feel? Because how you make your people feel is how they're going to make the people coming in to buy and do with us and be long-term customers. Is definitely how I look at it.
Right.
And I remember getting work shirts, and then I'd come in on Saturdays. I go, do you have a sales meeting in the mornings? Like kind of like Saturday. There's no vendors. There's no BS the GM has to deal with. Everyone's on the floor. Everyone's excited. Bikes are wiped down. We got new sale bikes that people are coming to pick up in the morning, or units, whatever, are already in the driveway, or we have somewhere set up by a mirror so they can see themselves in the mirror on it, all that good stuff. Paperwork's ready. And I just kept showing up, but they're like, I'd report every week, every Tuesday they'd have a meeting. I'd sit in and I'd have my report. Here's what I did, because my idea was, if I'm going to come work for you, I'm working with you. Like, we're doing this. And so that deemed really successful for me. That referral started happening. Like, hey, this guy's going to live in your store. Amanda's going to help set up, they'll help find your real estate for you. They'll help find your buildings. And then Indian, Scott Wine, CEO, not anymore, but for the ones that really took Polaris Industries, if you know Polaris,
Sure.
really took that to a whole never level. And then we just really started clicking, because we started now getting the manufacturer side saying, hey, you ought to talk to this group. Hey, you ought to do this. But I'll tell you a little funny thing is, so, like anything, we have different shows every year in the power sports industry, where you go and you see the new goods and this and that. And, you might go to the big parts one, you might go to the new motorcycle ones. So we would work it to where there was dealers that were like, I'm not going to the dealer show, but their team was. And I was like, well, there's an opening. I said, can we go on your behalf? And you just asked, you say yes or no. But it was I was kind of the dumb guy in our little, me and Amanda, but I would ask, because I was always like, well, then we should go. Like, you should have some kind of outside neutral, how we're looking at it. Especially if you're going to these things, you're usually doing a major order that year if it's new vehicle inventory, right? I mean, you're so normally you did have some people that were like, no, I'm not going. My GSM kicks ass. Great. You still might want somebody to, make sure you don't come back with all yellow fat boys for the entire year, So did a lot of things like that, but then we would go. I remember I didn't have the money to get in the magazine. Power Sports Business is our big magazine. And I remember, but my good friend, I won't mention his name, but, just because, but he's, the chief editor. And I remember when he was the editor, but he was the guy I could get a hold of, right? And Dave McMahon. And I would call him, but then he was always great. And I'd say, hey, dude, I can't do a $5,000 booth. I mean, that's not how I roll. I drive to these things from, Atlanta to Indiana. Here, I fly to Chicago. That's a cost. I stay in a crappy hotel. Right. That's my budget that I budgeted for myself. And he said, will you come speak? And I went, what do you mean? So he gave 10 topics that they do. We took 6 of them. And
that's great.
And Amanda was always the one. We used to say, hey, if we can't do it, we will tell you, right? I mean, you got it's not all about, the dollars and cents. And back then we really needed the dollars and cents.
Yeah.
But our whole thing was let's just get better. Let's just get better. We're going to have a hiccup at some point. We're going to do something wrong. We're going to get in too deep. We're going to get excited and say, whatever. And so she was more shoot from the hip, which was wild, on things. And then, Don's looking at me like, what, you weren't? But I was literally, a lot of times I was more like the excited, if I was on a showroom floor, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'd be like, what do they say? I'd be honest. I always have to think on something. I say I can do it a little less now, but it's 24 hours. I got to digest. I got to hear it. It's funny on things that I used to be super impulsive about, but on business, I just think I had such good opportunities happen to me in my career, and not meaning all good, but where you learn
something.
Okay. Or, okay, that didn't work out. But I remember saying, he's like, oh, would you do these speak? And he said it so nonchalant. And I said, well, give me, and he had 10, we did 6. Some were what are the, 12 things a GM needs to know each day when they wake up. And I go, well, dude, they're going to get 3 done. He goes, perfect. Tell that. That's a real story. You've done it, And I remember, now you like this. So we're sitting at a desk like y'all are, and I remember it's like, I wouldn't call it round table. It's just table, and it was about 6 people, and Amanda and I were going to have a bulk of the minutes. And so I always tried to think, like, I was like, dude, that makes me uncomfortable. Like, I'm sitting behind this desk, now I'm being interviewed. I'm looking at 80 people. Dude, I didn't think anyone was going to show up.
It doesn't feel normal at all.
And
yeah.
80 people show up. The seats are all filled, and I'm looking at all these owners' faces. I could tell owners a mile away. And, they're going to be, a little jaded, right? They've gone through the rigmarole. They've done it. Who's going to tell us something now? But also they want like a nugget. They're like, what are these people going to tell me? And all of a sudden, man, it's like, don't do it. Don't do it. And so I had like, headset and all this stuff, or like, and I just got up. And they're like, and I had this long, walkway. And I just started talking. I said, hey, I can't do it like this. I can't be talking to you. Y'all looking at, a PowerPoint. I said, let's talk about it, but let's talk about it like we're in a dealership. Like, what's a pain? What is your pain? What is this? What is that? And then we'll get other people and do it. Just, I don't know that it was perfect, but it just worked. And it worked for me. And then that's when I was like, okay, I can do this, And I realized that industry allowed you, although, everything's gotten very corporate or whatever it is, but it was like allowed somebody like me to kind of go for it, nobody's wearing suits and ties. I wasn't about to get shut down. And it allowed me selfishly to have confidence, and to be able to do that, but also to go in my ear, like no one's stopping me. People are nodding. People are like, oh, what about this? Oh, y'all do it that way. Or how do you do it here? This part of the country, they started talking about red flag laws or something in finance. I was like, I'm out, peace. But like, I was like, we didn't follow those. We just, we hope, somebody was watching that. But so that's what we started. Got to work with amazing dealers. Used to get my teeth kicked in when I would tell somebody like, hey, can I look at your your influx, your in and out, dollars and cents, like how are you doing this? And, can I look at your, gross profit? I could, all these things. But I could walk into a parts department, and I walked into one place here in Atlanta. They said, you'll never get in Bob's door. You'll never get in his door. And he was the coolest cat I knew, military, pilot. It was just a matter of it was like talking to my dad, dude. I just walked in there and I was like, we don't know if we got 5 minutes or we got to leave. And he was like, what are you talking about? I go, I heard you're like, we're just here to talk, but we're you, dude. And he was like, get in here. How can you help me? This and that. I walk in his parts department. My parts manager's the best. I go, he's super cool, super nice. He's discounting 10% off every single thing you sell because there's a little clip in light speed that you're using. It wasn't him. He is sharp. Yeah. He's probably got spinning plates. He had definitely had less employees than he needed in, a big market. But those were things that we could just see. And all of a sudden people didn't like to hear that. But when they go, man, they know what they're saying though. They found that. They were here in 4 hours and we've had that 10% discount for 6 months.
Plugged into the system.
And you just click it off. So you take the pain, but we're like, okay, now we backtrack. I go, okay, well, we got to sell 4 more bikes now, or we got to do this. So we just, it was the two of us that just knew how to talk the talk because we'd actually done it. And that's when the Butler Group came alive. And that's when, I could go on. It's just funny, like how we got in the door. She would walk in, to a dealership, Wilmington. I've been in Harley Davidson there. Yeah. That was the one. There's a hot little old Honda shop that was there or something. And I remember she would walk in and walk around and she would text me. And if she texted me, we were talking. So she was the hitter. She was the cold caller. She was like, I'm knocking the door down. Like that was just her. And it was like, but then again, as a dude, I had to go, hey dude, that works. Like get my ego out of the way. Cause I had one, be like, get out of the way. Let her do her thing. And then I'd come in and, cause we saw the places where like, what? Like how do, she knows her stuff, but they'd be like, huh? And I'd walk in and, just be corny or like, I'd be like, oh shit, you got lawnmowers in here, like, or like, so that's how the Butler Group started. But then it taught us where I say like we were all ready and how we did it. We had a skinny budget. We had to learn how to live by it. When we started making money, we had to realize that wasn't, it's, we're hunters, I mean, it's like we have to keep going and we have to fill the pipeline. We have to, go to all these different events. So we really learned, as much as I ran dealerships and big dealerships and mom and pops in the old days. And I ran, big groups, so it's like, one city I worked in, Mercedes-Benz used to come over and go, dude, what are y'all doing, dude? Like what? And I'd be like, I don't know. We don't have your GP that you have, but we hum. I mean, three years in a row, it was like 1,600 units, 1,800. And my owner would say, I think you can do 10% more. No one told this guy no. Not because he was mean or scary. The guy never wore blue jeans. But here's the thing. He made you believe that he believed you could do it. And it's just that. And then you take that, and we're not like bozos, right? We're not sitting there. But it was like, well, we can say like, no, we can't, and stomp our feet, or we could continue that rock star feeling, because in my mind, I had to be the bright and bushy, like, hey, yeah, dude, rah, rah, here we go. But then it was like what it literally taught me. It taught me to reach to those that I didn't know stuff on. It taught me to reach to other dealerships because he allowed that. Like he was like, just go do your thing, but plan. I mean, I remember running parts departments where I'd look out, at Harley Davidson. I'd see a guy that was like literally Army, introvert, had done a deployment. The last thing he wanted to do is being around a bunch of people and sell helmets and oil and stuff. And I said, man, would you be cool like organizing our $3 million parts department for 4 dealerships? Like, and he was like, what? He put a lock on the door, like a fence. He ordered the lock. He told us codes. He knew when to change it. He ran our inventory. I said, our biggest thing is we called it what it called. We called theft.
Yeah. And
then our owner said, if you can get down to this, and it was like 0.2%. We're like, again, you're like, well, I don't even know how to do that math. I don't know, I mean, this guy was, private managing partner at Morgan Stanley, dude, before he came to us. Like, I mean, he was like, but it allowed us to go, okay, that's just a crazy number, whatever that is. It's like, this is yours, make it happen. Min-max systems, I don't know. In motorcycle system, it's like, we've got 6 exhausts, you walk in, we really got 1, we're fumbling around looking for it. That's a no-go. That's not a min-max system. We want to have, it's 4, because it's the hottest thing out there. Hell, we might have 10 because bike week's coming up. But when we get down to 2, that we're already reordering, right? Like, and it's just a system. But back when I started, you literally were manually putting it in. So it worked like that. And this kid, but it was just where someone might say of 14 people, he's inventory clerk, he's 14. No, dude, he's number 1 because he's number 1 at what he does in his position. So, right. And then your team leader down, y'all are your team, right? And then bam, and then you got old bozo manager, me, and I better be figuring out how am I like helping y'all all those spaces. So that's what the Butler Group was on the other side, coming in to help those who maybe didn't have the experience. It was, we got big into opening brand new dealerships. That was a really big business for us, especially when they started opening Indian dealerships when Polaris bought that. And then in 2011, when I came to Atlanta, I met these guys, and this guys that were in a band, and I was in Nashville, and the now I know what it is.
Small little band.
Yeah.
So 2011, I'm in Nashville, and tell me if I'm like rambling on, but 2011. Go to Nashville. We call it a winter show, because, summer's your big show when new inventory comes out. Polaris has a winter one. We go to Nashville and, we're doing our whole thing, typical stuff I've kind of talked about, learning what's coming out, different things like that. And we had, at night you have your corporate party, right? And you have your corporate entertainment. And it was this little band, Zac Brown Band. 2011 was kind of the hot thing and stuff. And I remember Scott Wine reaching out, who really knew Amanda. Like, I didn't know Scott till kind of after. I just kind of let her, she had that relationship. Her father had the first Polaris dealership here in Atlanta. And he was like, hey, the Zac Brown Band, meaning really Zac, wanted to, gift all the people in the band and some other people that have been in a long time, because now, I don't know, they're getting new homes, they're getting property, they're, whatever. It's like, it's cool stuff. Zac loves all that outdoor gear and all that stuff and always has. And so we were the closest dealer.
That's crazy.
So this relationship starts, and the funny thing is, it's, not to go, but so it ended up being like, hey, these guys, they look like they ride, they look like they do this.
Yeah.
And I'll probably be like, they watch this, they'll be like, what the hell, dude? I said, but, you got the look and all that. Well, our dude, original gangster who started with Zac, John Hopkins, Hop, who we call Hop, he was riding, so he was riding. Coy Bowles was riding a little bit, and Zac had just started to to ride, but was really on the off-road, but two wheels and stuff. And so when they came to me, this is how I kind of met them. I'm like, oh my God, I got Zac Brown coming here, dude. I love the band. So now I'm like, I'm telling my people, don't fangirl out, but I'm from Orlando, but I dealt with all the old retired baseball pros.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally who I had, because everyone retired, for the taxes and all that stuff. But it's still like, hey man, keep your cool. Like, don't, this is just another person. But they all came in, they were great, but they were all like, oh, we got to get licensing and we got to get this. And so it really, the way I actually got to know them, it took time.
Right.
And then I called Polaris and I said, man, at first I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I got all the inventory they need. They go, oh, no. We'll be sending you the inventory. So I go, wait, I'm doing all this. But I mean, at the end of the day, my blood is sales, dude. I'm like going, and it's my inventory, and my guys are doing the work, and now this is like just going to be sent to us, and we're gonna take care of it. Anyway, worked out great. Have now built some lifelong relationships, but in 2017, definitely with some burnout, and not always being loved by the opposition or whoever I worked for. Like I've had my ups and downs there. I've been like, time for you to check out. And then sometimes I checked out, but I had an opportunity to go work for what we called then Southern Ground. Is now called Zac Brown Collective. And that would basically be our umbrella of everything that falls under us. But Zac has many, many interests and was like into many things at that time. Always the music's what makes everything happen. It's like selling the motorcycle, and then you get you get behind, the screen and all that stuff. So at that point I got an opportunity, to go, what we call the warehouse, is to kind of still interviewed. That's all I really asked was for an interview. And Zac and some others were very great about like, hey, these are things I'm doing. But the biggest thing was I did look, and I'm not being cocky, but I was like, man, I'm pretty good at what I do. I've got my freedom. Like, I'm flexible. I get to go watch some shows, which is really cool. And every now and then, maybe I get to go fish with some of the guys, or whatever. Yep. It's like, okay, those are all pretty good things. Life's good, whatever. And then he told me about his camp. And he told me about Camp Southern Ground, and he told me about being completely inclusive. He told me about what camp did for him, and and that they were going to really start and the forward even back then, which is not like what we do. He does so much now is with veterans, and I was like, whoa! So it was there, and Zac's very open, like I mean, his joke is he'll say, yeah, I was going to do this, and it was legacy, and it's something I really wanted to do, and his name's not on any of it. And he goes, and then you realize what you bit off, like camps and counselors and infrastructure. And when Zac does infrastructure, it's different than a lot of people. It's like Don does trucks or whatever. His world. And that's when I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, and basically without him saying it, because he won't talk money and all that stuff, but he was like, this is not an income stream for me. This is like, if we sell our knives, if we do leather, if we do a custom Jeep or motorcycle, or if we build something for, this, all that, of course, there's got to be a profit to it. We all know that sitting in this room, but that then streams into the camp. So the whole idea was on a smaller thing was for, I can't be this big philanthropist, as in writing a big check, but I can go work my ass off and put some really cool things in front of people that they'll want to buy and own. But then they and I, by doing that, get contribute to maybe one kid that gets to go to camp that maybe can't do it. And just the way Zac looked at things like, hey, like I'd say, well, what do you mean inclusion? We're going to build a camp where kids, that are on the spectrum. Like, ooh, like even I know it's like, I'm like the one going, oh, that's a lot of insurance. That's a lot of,
liability,
what could happen,
all
this and that.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I'm going to build one to where if they need a caretaker, that they will have that space in that room. And even if it's an outside room, the way they did things. And then, anybody that's like, we have kids in the inner city of Atlanta that have literally, they got bicycles, sure, or whatever, but they've literally, we always say, never left their block.
Yeah. And
there's kids that have never seen land. They've never seen like where food comes from. So he was deep dive into that. And then it was like, I always say this, probably shouldn't, but I say, and then we got the kids in Buckhead that they're going to pay the freight, but but it wasn't just that. It wasn't this like, oh, cool, have your kids come. And now he has them coming from all over the country. We've had one girl, beautiful girl, young, never been invited to a birthday party. Things where people come with a little bit of baggage, especially young kids and stuff. I've sent my kids there and they, they're even like, well, I was like, oh, Teddy, you got some things to work on, CC, ride a bike, like different things like that. And they came back when I saw them. It's like, you just go, what a week does, so it's like 9 1-week camps. And then we go into the veterans, and then the veterans is really blown up because we're, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know there's a program. It's like a year-long program. And we initiate the first part of that. And we have 2 parts. And one's just like, hey, get away. Let's, get you back, help you with transition or anything you may need, stuff like that. And then it's like a more like, I need to be here before I go home, and just get them paired back up with the camaraderie of their brothers and sisters, in arms and stuff is really, your wife and kids or your husband and kids and, different things like that. So in saying that, I call it, he, always be closing. And that's how he closed me. And it was awesome. It was because he said, what you will be doing will help us, and there's many people doing it, of course, big donors and all that stuff. But when I kind of looked at who's in, I was like, geez, I get to be a little part of this. Let's do it. And it changed. And the best thing is everything that I had done up to that point, it was funny because when I started my first day, and this is the funny thing, it's 29 degrees. I get on a road camp. I don't even think it was mine. I think I still need to return it to the dealership. And I rode there, but Duncan likes cool a little bit, but I got all the gear, but I like cool. So I'm going to go thin gloves. I'm going to look cool. I'm going to pull up. It's 36 miles. It's Atlanta.
Oh man, 29 degrees.
I get there. I walk in and on any job, right? You do paperwork.
Right.
And I'm just in this room looking like I'd had a rough night before and I got the shakes and and I was just like, what is happening? But I also, Honest Engine was like, what have I done? What am I doing? And the thing was, I look back even today and I said, man, you're out of your comfort zone. Because I could walk into a dealership anywhere in the country. There's inventory. There's a parts department. There's service. I know what people look like. I can tell you what department you're in. I know who the owner, I can figure it all out. And I walked in there and I was like, you're new. You are new. You are not an artist. You're not super creative. You're not I was walking around like what those people could do in there. People that were from NASCAR that were building engines that would run championships. Now they're over here going, oh, it's like, what do you do? I go, not much. I don't know. I don't know. Y'all built this and different. So it was just really cool to see all that. But I remember it was a Friday. I went home and I literally, lived by myself. So I all this time to myself. And I was woke up on Saturday and I said, it's a motorcycle shop. Break it down. Yeah. What is everything? And luckily they were very kind. They were like, hey, go figure it out. I am going to tell a story because it was on somebody I didn't love there and he's not there anymore, but no names, but this is just me and him, not a bad person. But I remember he said, I feel like he made it take forever for me to get in there, but he said, hey man, why don't you take a month and do that? I go, dude, I'm going to send you what an invoice from me would look like for a month for me to just walk around and figure out like what's wrong, what we need, what could be done better. Like, even if that's how I think, I don't think that they were even asking that, but like how to generate sales, how are we doing it? What's the process? Do we even do, like an RO? Do we write out a report? How do we do deals? How do you do these like custom jobs? Like if I get your truck, how do I get it? Because I'm sitting there going, hey, dude, I need to order. I need to itemize. Don's going to want to see these things that, I'm looking at. We're going to have 4 or 5 chats on. He's going to be telling me stuff that he's interested, and so that's how I was the first week. And they were like, whoa. Like, we build stuff. I go, yeah, but how do we follow up with it? Where do we buy it? Who are our vendors? Are we getting cost? Like, are we just paying stuff? And I said, dude, I'll do that in I'll do that in 3 days, and then, but so that's how I started with that. And from that point, and I don't even know if he'll remember it, but Zac was in the warehouse one day and he's walking through and he's always like meeting with somebody, or he loved the warehouse, showing people like, what we're doing and stuff like that. Which is another great thing about him. It was him that would be like, hey, you're interested in this, or hey, here's what we do, or, all that stuff. And I remember saying, I said, I got to be on tour. And I was like, oh, that was uncomfortable. Because 1, I know him. 2, it's like, man, how many people have said that? And then it was like, and I don't have an elevator speech. So it was like stop sign.
There
like, hey buddy, it sounded good.
I got to be on tour.
But the funny story is somebody had told me, and it wasn't me, but someone had told me before, like, hey man, you think about it. We're out there. There's 1.5 million eyes look at us over a tour or something like that, and some stat. And I just was like, I'm going to run with that. I was like, and then I go, hey, I didn't say this, but I assume there's this many people that are looking at it. But what I was saying is like, hey, we need to tell this story. There's a story to be told, and all this, good that the band does, and this and that, and getting kids in camp, and this and it was more to the point, like, hey man, I don't want you selling out there, and this and that. People are paying good money, come to shows with their family. And I said, yeah, never. I'm not. I tell stories, like, and today now, fast forward, I tell stories about the band members, different things like that.
Awesome.
Because my big thing is, if you come to a show, Steve, I want you, Don already knows, I want you, before you even get to the actual what you came for, to be like, oh dude, we got these opportunities, or we had the opportunity to do this, or man, wow, I learned more about the band and who they are as people, and family members and different things like this, and or like who the back line people are, who the front of house, how the production works. Oh, and now we get the show. Oh, cool. Wow. So for me, it's like, it's experience, and
that dude, I was just going to say, man, cause I'm sitting here, and that was one hell of a, how'd you get here? But I'm sitting here thinking, because I don't know you. You know Don, but how the hell did he get from power sports, basically going in and teaching, groups on efficiency, logistics, operations? At the end of the day, it was creating an experience for the end user. And there's the thread, as you're saying, like whether it be for that or for entertainment or camps, or you're going in and using that core passion of yours to dissect and figure out how you can create a better experience.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing, man.
PR. I need you for PR.
No, dude.
I have
all those good words. All those good words.
I experienced it. Actually,
it's pretty cool though.
When I was telling Steve right before you came on, we were at the Raleigh show,
North Carolina. Yeah.
And it was 2 days before they locked the country down.
Yep.
But the VIP experience, that you guys create, that was incredible. I've never been to a concert and experienced
he told us,
like that. But you're right. You did. It does a good job of, you almost kind of feel like the band when you leave. It's unreal. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, it's the idea, and I'd say the big part of that, and this isn't like blowing sunshine, but it's like this. It's like anything. It's like a team, right? Like we look at college basketball now, or football, or whatever you're into, and what do they talk about? They leave in a year. They leave here. But you watch the teams that stay together. They're not the hottest team. They're not the biggest, but all of a sudden, they're they're in, you know, Midnight Madness or whatever, March Madness, and then they're in the Final Eight. And then they call them the Cinderella teams, but a lot of times if you look at those teams, they've been together. They know what each other does. They can speak to each other. They can speak to each other in every way. Like you have to keep them motivated, what it takes and all that. And, you know, I still call myself the green pea of this group because they've all, I mean, backline, been together so long. And that's where you see, and what I'm kind of getting to is that I am literally told, like, go be you, do what you do. But it's not like a lazy, oh, yeah, go do what you do. It's like, go do what you do. To the point now where I believe I have the trust. Our band members, you know, and I haven't really worked with a lot of other bands, you know, a couple one-offs and stuff like that. But I mean, I wake up in the morning, I have my regimen, and dude, I can tell you by breakfast, I have 3 to 4 of them going, hey, do you need us today? Do we have anything that, you know, are we doing any, you know, like side meet and greets, or, you know, are we doing a backstage tour, or we, you know, what do we have going on? And we more have our day like already out, right? They have their day out too. But this is like, some days we might not see them till 4, and I'll like, hey man, I got so-and-so coming at 12:30, you know, it's like, I'll be there at 11:30, I'll do lunch and then tell me where we meet. I mean, it's never been a no. I literally can say it's never been a no. Now I have 9 people that I can work. Well, let's say 8. You know, you get Zac at different times, right?
Right.
We're going to run on a different schedule. But, I mean, it's just blown away that it's like, so you almost go, hey, it's always that little like, hey, don't get used to this. Don't get cocky about this. But sometimes you're like, you know, like, well, I'll go by them and go, man, I love y'all, dude. I appreciate you. And it's genuine because I'm like,
that's cool.
They just know the whole thing and they know the people experience. And that's why our fan club, one, is so amazing. But like, I have people that I've just, you know, we have people that have gone to 100 shows, 137 shows and stuff, you know, and, but it's like, our band members will be like, hey, man, where's so-and-so? Where's Patty McNabb? Where's, you know, this and that? I got to give her a shout out because she is like one of them. But it's, so it's that kind of background. So when they came out, you and Ben and, you know, the girls and all that stuff, I was like, you know, a lot of people will be like, hey, we don't want to bug you. I mean, that's my flick a switch. That's my like, okay, now I have people that I'm like, that are my friends that, you know, that I break bread with, that we do different events with, things like that. And now it's like, not anything cocky, but I want, you know, their opinion matters. I want them to see me, you know, in what I do, but it's kind of fun too, because I can put them on my hip type of thing and say, hey man, come over here, come look at this or that, you know. You can get them the cool things. They can do the lounge and all that stuff. That's cool. But it's also, you know, as I've grown into, the position, I would say, because it always changes depending how the tour set is. But at the end of the day, it's people, it's experience. It's like, and I genuinely believe, like, when they get in that car or truck or whatever, when they're leaving home, that, you know, is like, I hope I was part of that high.
That's cool, man.
You know, that'll be my selfish side. I want to be part of that high, that they were like, I knew the concert was going to be cool. I knew it. And it's like when I go to a show and I see something, I'm like, whoa, okay. Oh, that's cool. Oh man, they do that. Or, you know, you meet security people and they're just cool, right? Because they, you know, they're just like, and they really know how to, you know, kind of manage chaos and stuff like that. And that's for more of the back end for me, because I'm watching all that stuff now and I'm like, okay, like this and that. But it's like, I say, going to a show, so many people say, we were out with Kenny Chesney 2 years ago. Everyone's like, a lot of people might be like, I like the more, you know, amphitheaters. I like, you know, maybe a basketball stadium, something like that, you know, because it's more intimate, right? It's less people. But for me to go to a football stadium, it's like, if you're behind the scenes, you know, meaning like NFL stadiums, workers are insane. They're like, it's a masterclass.
Yeah.
Because you forget, and it's older men, retired, maybe at Kansas City Chiefs Stadium. You know, it's this and that, but it's just the way, like, the way they run that machine. And I know they're like, it's another hired company, or it could be, you know, whomever, you know, our big names are and stuff, or details. But that's one thing that I always watch out. Like, how are you treating people? How are you doing this? You know, my guy that runs Gillette Stadium, you know, from the police side, Grover, like just every day he would hear me like, oh, here he comes. And I'd be like, what are we doing today? Da, da, da. Be my typical self. Well, we do 3 shows there. Well, now you know these people and you're talking to them every day. And so it's just, for me, it's just, how many touches are you getting? How much is the experience? Being aware. I'm a nerd, dude. I go sit in people's seats if I know they're coming. I would send me your tickets, but I want that to like, hey, dude, we're pumped that you're coming. I don't know everybody that's coming, right? I don't know all that, but whatever's in my little basket, you're going to get Duncaned somehow. And hopefully that's good.
You're going to get Duncaned. I love that.
Man,
yeah.
There's a shirt too.
I know one of the coolest experiences probably in my entire life, I can honestly say, that you helped facilitate that I'll be forever grateful for was last year at our Clean Eats convention.
They're awesome.
We were looking for a band, right?
Yeah, they were great.
And, we had a little bit of a cushion of a budget. And I was looking at like bigger names that was going to be like, and I reached out to Duncan and he was like, bro, I got the perfect fit. And it was Wyatt Durrett and Levi. And Wyatt has written songs for Zac and Luke Brown.
A lot of number ones.
Luke Combs and a bunch of others. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah. So me and Yvonne get on the phone with these guys. And these guys are like, if you didn't know better, they're as blue collar as the day is long.
Right.
Like, felt like I was talking to a high school buddy. And then he comes to the show. They kick ass at the convention. They put on a great show. And then this is the cool part. After the show, after the night that they were performing, they get done, and all of our franchisees are blown away because they were, he would storytell.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That's what they were really good at. They were storytelling.
Yeah. Singer-songwriting.
Yeah, and how they came up with the songs and the ideas behind it. Well, we get done, and I was like, that convention, like, it just kills me. I'm dead to the world after that thing. But, Wyatt comes up, and he's like, hey, man, you going to go to the bar? And I'm like, oh.
You can't say no to that.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll tell you what, Wyatt, I'll go have one. 3:00 in the morning rolls around. Yvonne's texting me like, where are you at? I'm like, I'm still drinking. But he sat there at the bar, at the end of the bar, and he told me so many stories about some of those songs that he wrote. And I remember thinking to myself while he's talking, I'm like, this is the coolest fucking thing that's ever happened. Like, I've heard these songs since I was a little kid. Like, some of these songs, I was really young when he wrote those and they came out, teenager almost. And I don't know. That was just, it's probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had.
That was one of the most, and that's when I was dabbling in that. Like, hey, I'd get calls and stuff like that, whether people would think that I, knew more than I did, or I could get something done. And, but, Wyatt, I say I've hired for, HD supply events and stuff like that, where they would be like, hey, we're just really looking for someone, something, in the back, right? Like, just, because this is going to be like networking and we're bringing our top this and that. And I said, okay. They'll be at the front, and they put them back. It was this great little whiskey place. It was awesome. And the thing about them too is I was nervous. I was like, hey, they might, you might be background, this and that. And they're like, we're cool. We got this. We know. So it's like, you're always learning from other people too. That's what you want to be circled. And where I would be like, but then they were like, but it's kind of cool. Duncan's uptight, dude. Duncan's uptight. Because I want things to work. Dude, I have a host mentality. It makes me a little crazy and stuff. But I remember kind of like them start playing, and they, like you kind of did. And it's still like, I mean, it's the coolest thing to me is I'm sitting back there, and Levi's getting a little restless, not with anything, just getting a little restless, put it that. And I watch him and Wyatt, and I'm sitting there, room's kind of dark. Things are getting going, all this stuff, they probably got 30 minutes, and I'm making sure they got their food and da-da-da-da, which people do that on our tour. There's other people that do that. So I'm kind of learning like, oh, this is what I'll do. And I just said, hey man, I'll just be your person. I'll just be your, and I remember Wyatt just kind of going, chill, bro, just sit down, man. Like and they're like, and it's like kind of watching them, do their thing. And I was watching, Levi's getting a little anxious. That's what I'll call it. And I watch Wyatt grab Levi's guitar and say, man, just I got this little thing that I'm thinking like this. So would you pick to it? and it was like like somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course, my mind would go, is something happening? Is this about to go sideways, dude? Or whatever, dude? And I would say it to them, and I was like, oh God, you're telling me to calm down. And he hands it to him, but it was like then where I sat back and I go, I mean, for me, I was like, dude, I'm sitting here during this. You know, when you have those moments sometimes you go, whoa, put the brakes on. Like you're watching, like, you know, and not everything's always beautiful and cool and this and that, dude. But when you see how, like, nobody else in that room could have eased him up or would have known or would have been like, oh, can I get you a glass of water? Or, you know, you want some cut up apple? No, he's like, hey man, I'm thinking it was more Wyatt putting more on him. Like, hey man, why don't you here's your guitar, pick that. You love picking and he just starts, and it literally, and he just starts hemming something, singing, you know, song, like a song I guess they were working on or something like that. And he's like, where am I on that one? And you just watch it all go. And then Wild would be like, okay, let's go, you know? And then it's like, I was like, what just happened? Like, what? So it's seeing things like seeing all the real, you know? But the funny thing is they get up, they start playing, you know, this and that. And people start hearing, you know, some, you know, people know the songs or this or that. And Wyatt would just start telling about a song with everybody, I wouldn't say back, you know, but a busy room, right? Like it's just cocktailing and, you know, just passing along food and so, and then you start seeing it turn and turn and turn. And then someone's like, wait, is that so-and-so? Whoa, is that Toes? Or wait, hey, what did you? And so it's just, he's like, this is what we do, dude. Like, it's like, and if they want us in the back, we're in the back.
You know what was funny that I thought was, they did a phenomenal job of it. And I don't know if they always do this because I've only seen them perform once, but Levi is such a quiet, introverted dude, but his humor, like he was busting balls in that room. Like if somebody was getting up and walking out of the room, he would literally stop playing and he would be like, no, don't go. Where are you going? And like he would kill the whole thing. And that there you could hear a pin drop in the room. He's like, will you grab me a drink while you're out there? And then they'd pick right back up and start playing. I'm like, yeah, this dude is fun. He's a fucking riot.
Yeah, he is. And honestly, I didn't know that about him either until there was an event in Orlando. And it was at a place that I knew very well. And my friend had, Jay Pieper had, you know, called me about him, but he had booked him. And I was like, oh, dude, you're getting him. Like, he just did, you know, Luke Combs. I mean, he just got #1. He just got like writer of, you know, all that stuff. I said, and they were like, yeah. And I said, well, I'm coming. And I flew down to Orlando like at night, got in some Uber van, like not like a big van. Like I was like, there's one person, dude. And I remember going in, and it was private. And I remember like getting in and I came walking through. I'm going to say there's maybe 80 people there. And I walked right in front of them while they were playing. I remember Wyatt going, but in saying that, then he started going, and it's kind of a little different group, and he was just ripping, and it was, I don't know if that was the icebreaker or they were like, oh my God, this was amazing. And that's when, honestly, knowing them, but I got to watch them and I was like, ooh, like I could, like, and it's just more like, hey, people need to see these people or people need to do this. And then I would be like, someone would be like, hey, do you have somebody or this or that? And that's why when you did it, that's where I was really confident and kind of not understanding your business inside and out, but I know how y'all are drivers and like really want people to understand, like, and you almost want to use someone different than what your world does, right? Or my world does. It's like, you want to bring in somebody and they're like, oh, we're going to listen to music and some stories. And then they go, oh, but this didn't work the first time. Or, hey, man, we were just sitting there and we were like, we had to go for it, you know? So like in business and life and sales or whatever you're doing, like sometimes you just got to go for it. Or you got to, you know, like I've been doing these 50 milers or whatever. And I remember my buddy that started it was like, he kept saying, oh, we're at like 80%, this and that. It was going to be the 20th anniversary, 9/11 in Manhattan. Mm. And I said, we're going. I said, just put the pedal in gas. We will figure it out. You know, I'd be like, oh, I mean, and these guys were putting it together. I was going there to kill myself. But it was like, you know, it's like, oh, well, the FBI set up or this route or this. I said, we're going. Like, let's just go. Like, dude, let's go. 80%, we go. And then you fix things as we go. Like, you know, if it's right, you know, or whatever it is. And then Duncan gets lost in Brooklyn. That's a whole nother story for 3 miles. And I was like, this is the warrior story. And I
love it.
Here it comes. Here it comes. You know, I'm here early. I was ready early, all this stuff. And they leave me early. They leave early. I was like, oh, none of these guys know New York City. I do. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm meeting at Yankee Stadium. Now I'm sidebarring, but it's just, anyway. But it's just that whole thing. Like I was so, that was the first time in a long time I wasn't nervous about, something, right? Like I know you, I know what you stand for and all that, but I was just like, this will just fit for a little bit of what I, watched on Instagram or different things that y'all done when you have that event. I was like, yeah, like they'll just fit, it'll just be,
it was
good.
Great.
And it'll be good for people to be able to, ask questions or to be told stuff and all that. So I'm really happy that worked.
I mean, at the end of the day, to both your points, it's the experience that you create. I mean, you have core memories from what Duncan's facilitated. I just think it's cool that you're tuning up the mechanics for a memory for someone else, because that stuff lasts forever. But it's not as easily, it doesn't happen as easy as it looks. And I think and that's the weird parallel in all this. I mean, we're all in different industries. But at the end of the day, the core of each of our businesses is a passion for that good experience. Like I want to make them feel something. You want to make them feel something. And it's just cool to hear parallels in what you do, brother, what he does, what I do.
Yeah. It's the right drug,
Yeah.
It's the right drug. I mean, just wanting to have somebody be excited or do stuff like that, and like I'm nobody, but people, some people might look at me and go, oh, you get to do all these things and this and that. And then when they come out is what I love, because they get to see the production and then they get to see what happens. And for me, like it's just easy for me now, because I'll see somebody come out and they'll be a developer, or they'll be a construction person, or they'll be tech, into tech. They'll be into marketing. They'll be into, and so for me, the funnest part of my job is going, and they'll be like, hey, Duncan, can you, meet with these people? Or they're going to have a meet and greet, but then could you walk them back to their seats? So that's what I'll get. That'll be my layout. Get them their seats. And nowadays, how we do it, it's like how we meet you, how we let you know where we're going to see you. Like we do I feel like, and it might look a little rough draft, but we do every detail to, like, we might snap a picture like, Don, you're going to meet me here, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to, but all of a sudden what we're doing is like, we are there every minute, like I like being with you the day of before you even get to the gate,
And what people are going through it don't realize, there's a choreography to all, like it's the work behind the scenes planning that makes it feel so natural and approachable.
Yeah.
To your,
and so like you would come, but you would come out and, somebody might like I say construction and stuff like that, because we get a lot of people like that out and stuff. And so I'll say, I can take everybody on the stage, right? You can have that cool, blah, blah. If we have a thruster, you go way out. You can take, that's nothing. We're going to do that. That's going to be the end all.
Right.
But I want to go, hey man, look, this is our, 12 to 20 trucks, depending on tour, that we roll in. But look how they're all backed in. Look how they're all labeled. Look how this comes in. Look at all this stuff, the way it comes out. That will go back. When that encore song is finished, the only thing that's left to do is load those trucks. Everything else, our finance office, our production office, our band office, our food, our logistics, we're doing per diem out there. We're opening our business, and we shut it down. So literally I can tell you, boom, last song, that's the encore for this tour, whatever, They may change it up. I know immediately that's when the ants scurry. Y'all are leaving, everything's coming off that stage. So that's the last thing in the building that is being wrapped up and put away. Because when they start is when everything starts breaking down, everything else. My lounge, if I'm outside and there's tents and this and that, broken down, all our cases are put back together, everything's happening. Because somebody will be like, hey man, can I see you at for at least a song? I go, I'm trying to get to it, the last one, because we're getting everything done, But I've had all different things. Like 2 years ago, it was like, hey Duncan, you're going to be on a truck, meaning the driver, your truck, VIP is what I deal with. It's like, you're going to bring it off, and you're going to bring it on at the end of the night. So you're going to load in, you're going to load out, you're going to have hands. So for me, it was like, I love it. I'm going to learn it, and you're dealing with all, unions, different things like, so there's all these little different facets, but it's the big thing is when people come out knowing a little bit about them without stalking them, some people do get stalked, but it's like, let's just see just little things. hey man, like I've had kids, I've had the best is when I had people that are like, these tickets aren't right. I didn't get, I'm supposed to be in that VIP. Da, da, da. Well, there's VIP to the stadium. There's our VIP. There's lounge. There's different things. But instead of being like, no, dude, that's taking, you did this wrong, whatever. I love to be like, figure it out. Julie Butler can figure anything out. Like, so basically I just say I'm her assistant and she can and we have the same last name. She can figure anything out. So I'll like, boom, on the phone. We call it, oh shit. And and no one's going, well, I'm doing something. They're like, boom, boom, boom. Or I can be right there. I'm around the corner. What are your tickets? Because we have everybody that can do things better than the others, right? Yeah. They might know tickets inside an hour, where you want to do. We're never sending somebody back to the gate. That is not, that's a no-go, right? Even if it's not on us, but it's our show. And what I love is then, especially if it's like a stadium, amphitheaters are cool, it gets a little tighter, but arenas, then I'll just say, hey, why don't y'all just walk back with me real quick? I need it like, I think they're going to meet me around the corner. Well, now they go back. And now they're in the back, and band members are walking by, or the opening acts coming out, or you're looking at Megan Maroney, dude. Young little girls see Megan Maroney walking by, with her glittered out, who was crushing it on that tour, by the way, that we were on. And but it's just like being able to do things like that, but knowing that, anybody that sees you knows that, well, okay, he's got it. Not like, hey, what are you doing back here? Who are they? Da da da. I'm like. I mean, that's who we are out there.
Those are the moments. And,
yeah. And being around Kenny Chesney's squad was like redonkulous. I went into that literally saying, I'm going to be a student. I'm almost 50. I'm going to be 55 in December. I was like, I'm going to be a student. I'm going to get my master's. And it was amazing because, I think we're the best. I probably take myself out of that. Like I'm a constant student but it's like, but then watching us all together and knowing their history, from when ZBB and then we're opening up for him. I mean, and watching, props to Kenny, dude, because you want to talk about, we started that tour and I was like, I was putting on a hitch on a golf cart, like, to put a flag on.
Wherever it's needed.
I see this guy at Tampa, Buccaneer Stadium, which was my team, coming, and he's coming down, and the show's the next night, and they're like, oh, he's been here a week. Oh, his team's been here a week. No, he's been here a week. Or friends of mine that, now work for him, and they were like, yeah, we got the day off because he wants, he's going to spend a couple hours with lighting and video. And it's just, and so that's when you watch that, where some people will be like, oh, they do this and they make all this money. Da, 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 da. I said, dude, that came with it. Yeah. He's filling stadiums, whatever your opinion is, everyone has their different music, but I was like, dude, watch this. And then you meet their band members and you meet, I had people, the kid was a big drummer and we have our great drummers, Sweets, Chris Fryer and Daniel De La Reyes. And then all of a sudden, Kenny's drummer's like, hey man, I'll meet him. It's like just easy, right? There's like, they kind of want to be, they're like, hey, I want to do it. Like, why am I not being asked? I was like, I didn't know I could, but just things like that. It's all experience, it's experience. It was motorcycles. I used to always say, when I was in a leadership role, it was always like, I don't care if it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, stuff starts getting more hyped up because you're getting into the weekend and we're busy. It's like, what are we doing? And it didn't happen every day. And damn sure knows that I wasn't it every day. But it was like to have a kick in the pants, to have people that had kind of really taught me, not to let them down, even that, or I'm in another dealership now, but was like, what can you do just a little different? Don't make it this big hard thing, because you tell somebody that's got like a little bit aggressive, a little bit of attitude, got a little swag, and you say just a little different, they're going to check you, hopefully, right? They're going to come out. They're going to be like, oh, okay, I got your little bit. And or just getting to know how everything's work. And that's where I was able, I believe, to come out and do this job, because I would look at motorcycles and I broke it down in those components. It's a service department, it's parts department, it's finance department, it's sales department. It's, all these things. And now it's like production, it's band, it's catering, it's buses, it's trucks. Both are different. Drivers are different, all that, but it's all personality, right? And I think that's where, if I have anything, it's to do my best to understand who's ever in front of me. if that makes any sense.
That's a perfect takeaway too.
Yeah.
Know your audience, because they're the ones that are going to make it all come together, man.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Duncan, man, we got to wrap it up. But this has been great, brother. I appreciate it.
I hope so. There's a lot of blabbing, but I hope it,
It's good, man. You made it easy on us.
Yeah, you made it really
You told great stories, and we just got to listen. I feel like I'm tuned in, so no worries on that, man.
Well,
right,
great
guys.
to see you and great to meet you.
Yeah, bud.
I really enjoyed this.
Absolutely.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure we'll all regroup soon. So appreciate you, man. Thanks, Duncan.
All right, guys.
Yep. Let me know if you need anything from me.
Will do, brother. All right, guys. Till
Okay.
next time.
Bye.